Hi everybody, I thought I'd give you a little behind the scenes, take a look at my workflow after I do a photo shoot. So I did a photo shoot for my wife's coworkers and some of their dogs the other day. So after I get all those into the computer, I use a program called Lightroom. It's pretty much a photographer's standard program. It's really great for image management and processing the photos. So the first thing that I really do is I take a look at all the photos. So in this case, I took 294 photos. So what the first thing that I do is I go through and look at each photo and kind of get an idea if it's in focus and if it's exposed properly and if it's composed nicely. And I use flags and stars to kind of narrow down the ones that I'm interested in and sharing with the world. So the first thing that I do is I go through each photo and figure out if I want to flag it or not. Basically, what a flag means to me is that it's a shot that is sharp and it's exposed, and it might be something that I want to use in the future. So that's kind of the first way that I weed out the bad photos, so to speak. So after I flag the photos, I go through all of the flagged photos and star them. So Lightroom lets you put anywhere from 1 to 5 stars on each photograph. So I start out with 3, and I put 3 stars on photographs that I'm interested in putting time into editing. So these are the photographs that are the best of the best, basically. And after I put 3 stars on the ones that I'm interested in editing, I'll go through and edit the photos. And after I edit them, I'll put 4 stars on them. And 4 stars means that they're ready to share with the world. So I've gone through and already flagged the ones that are sharp and, for the most part, properly exposed. So instead of going through and starring each ones, I'll pick a couple and show you how I'm actually processing them. So let's pick one. I like this one here. So if you push D, you can go into the develop module, and that's where all of the editing is going to take place. So I really like this photograph. This is Monty. He's a Great Dane, and he's just a really great dog. So this was taken in the graveyard, actually, of the University of Oregon. You can see some tombstones in the back there. I really like how this photo is composed, and it's nice with the trees in the background. So the first thing that I notice is that he's really underexposed. So I'm going to want to start with the exposure slider and kind of get an idea of how much I can push the photo without actually compromising any of the really great qualities about it. So I'm going to start off with the exposure and just kind of ratchet it up a little bit and see what we can do. So adding a 1.75 to the exposure is quite a bit. It's starting to make the background and the dog itself a little bit grainy, so I don't want to push it too far. And if I push the J key, that'll show you all of the areas that are being clipped. The red areas indicate all of the areas that are going to be pure white, and the blue areas are the areas that are pure black. So both of those areas don't have any information in them. So that's definitely something to be aware of. Lightroom has a built-in feature that helps you with that. So it's the recovery slider here. This is going to try to bring back some of that information. So that's going to just, as you slide it, really help with those really kind of searing whites and really dark darks. So you can see the beginning, and then as you move up, it helps with that. You want to be careful with the recovery slider because the higher you go, the more muddled the image is going to look. So you really want to use that sparingly. Next slider I usually use is the fill light slider. This is going to really affect your dark portions of the photograph. So this is the part that really fills in the shadows. So I'm going to use that to give Monty a little bit more detail and kind of give you a little bit more, more of a pop to the photograph. So you want to use that sparingly as well. The more you use that, the more noise you're going to have in the photograph. So if you really crank it up, it starts to look pretty bad. So you really want to use that sparingly as well, just enough to add to the photograph. So I think right about there is going to be good. So looking at this photograph, I think I'm going to turn it into a black and white. Usually when I make that decision, it's because there's not too much color that adds to the photograph. So in this case, you could see some of the greens and some browns in the background. I just don't really think they're adding too much to the photograph. So I think this might be a stronger photograph if we move to a black and white. So you can do that up in the right-hand corner here by moving from color to black and white. And already I like the look of that much better. So once I make that change, I'm going to go back and kind of adjust my sliders to better suit a black and white photograph. So what I'm looking at again is the recovery slider, if that's really going to be affecting the image in a positive way. I still like it right about there. Yeah, and playing with the exposure here, I think that's set properly as well. I'm going to put the fill light right about 20, and the blacks really start to make the image pop. This is a slider that you again really want to use sparingly. You can really kind of get a funky result if you go overboard with it. So I'm going to put it probably right about there. It's still leaving you with some detail in his face, but it's really adding some contrast. So moving down, I'm gonna play with the brightness slider a little bit. The brightness slider it's gonna affect the photograph globally, and when I say globally, I mean the whole photograph. So as opposed to a fill light scenario, the fill light is really just affecting the dark portions of the photograph, but the exposure and the brightness are really noticeably a global change. So I'm probably going to leave that be, maybe even brighten it up just a little bit. And the contrast is going to brighten the whites and darken the blacks to give you more contrast. So I kind of like it right about there. And the clarity slider is going to really pop out some of that detail, so you can really kind of see it in the background here with the trees. So let me give you an idea. So there's 0, and as you go up, it really brings out some of that detail in the trees, which is kind of nice. It's also going to be affecting his Monty's face here. Alright, so moving down, let's back off that a little. So moving down, my eyes are still really being drawn to some of the background, the really kind of hot spots of the image, the really white spots, and those can be toned down by using the highlights slider here under the tone curve. So I'm just going to back off on those just a hair. I think that looks nice. Okay. So the next area that I usually go to is the detail area. So that's where you're going to do your sharpening and your noise reduction. And that's easier to do if you have it zoomed in all the way to 100%. So I'm going to just sharpen it up a little bit. And the more you sharpen, the more noise you're going to have. So I shot this image at a really high ISO, at 2500 ISO. That's really, really pushing it. So I'm going to need to do some noise reduction. Noise is all of the speckled grain in the back, and it really it kind of detracts from the image. So I'm going to just use this slider just as much as I need to. The luminance slider is really going to smooth out some of the detail globally as well. So it's a good and bad thing. It reduces some of that noise, but it also gets rid of a lot of that detail that you do want. So you want to use that just as much as you need to, and try not to use that too much. Alright, so I think that's looking a lot better. Let's just take a look at the before and after. So this is the after, and that's the before. So you can see a pretty dramatic change right off the bat. I think it's a much better image this way. So then I'm going to go down to the lens corrections area. I like to turn on the profile corrections. This is basically compensating for the lenses that you're using. So I use this. The lens that I used is a really wide angle lens, and when you have the aperture really wide, you can get some darkening of the edges and some distortion. So when you're enabling this correction, it automatically compensates for that. So this is with it on, and that's with it off. So you can see that when you have it on, it gets rid of a lot of the darkening of the edges and some of the distortion that I had using that lens. The darkening of the edges is actually not a bad thing. I like to have a little bit more control over it by using the vignette slider here at the bottom. I like to have it set on the highlight priority. That's going to do just what it said, give priority to the highlights. So when you decrease the amount here, you're going to get some darkening of those edges. So I like to find that happy medium. The vignette is really meant to draw attention to the subject of the photograph by darkening the edges. So I like to play around with that and find a good point. So I like where it's at now. The edges are adequately darkened. I like to change the midpoint as well, so that's going to kind of give it a more feathered look, and you could really hone that by using the feather slider here. So that's nice right about there, maybe even a little bit less. And again, you really just want to find that happy medium. By shooting in RAW, you have a lot of leverage in the amount of corrections that you can make to the photograph. So by using a couple of sliders, you really can change the image drastically. So I think this is looking pretty good. Let's just take a look at the before. Oops, don't want to delete it. So there's the before, and there's the after. I'm probably going to take this into Photoshop and just make a couple more corrections that you can't really do here. So looks like there's a little pine needle on his tongue that's bugging me, so I'll probably get rid of that and maybe tone down some of the trees in the background a little bit more, and maybe try to bring up some of the really dark areas in his back legs. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So I feel like it's a good image. Thanks a lot for watching.